we're starting to build a quorum here. Before I recognize, I just want to give you a heads up that my wife is going to be driving through your district today. I've asked her to offer up a full report at dinner tonight about how things are going up there. So at this time, I'd like to recognize the distinguished chairman from the 53rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President, and if we will make her feel welcome if she stops or is in need of assistance. And if we'd known better, we'd have had a ticker tape parade for her just to show our appreciation of the First Lady of the Senate. But since we didn't know, we'll just wave as she passes by. But I'm glad to be here in the chamber with three fine other legislators. One of my mentors is a senator from the 12th, who with her education background is a leader to make sure we do things right when we talk about education. Mr. President, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
There's a good chance my wife stops in your district and buys something. She seems to be really, really good at doing that. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions, please bring them to the secretary's desk at this time. We will now begin the long process today of first reading of Senate bills and resolutions by the secretary.
To be entitled an act to amend Chapter 25 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to life insurance so as to require annual
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 113 by Senators Harbin of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 25 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to life insurance so as to provide for
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 114 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to professions and businesses.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 115 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding driver's licenses.
Public safety.
Senate Bill 116 by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to children and youth services so as to provide for registration of maternity supportive
Health
housing.
and Human Services.
Senate Bill 117 by Senators Miller of the 49th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 16, Article 1 of Chapter 10 of Title 17, Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 35, Title 42, and Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to sexual offenses, procedure for sentencing and
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 118 by Senators Harper of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 32-6-28 of the OCGA relating to permits for vehicles and loads of excessive weight.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 119 by Senators Harper of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 12-6-90 of the OCGA relating to permit required for burning wood,
Natural
land.
resources.
Senate Bill 120 by Senators Tippins of the 37th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 18 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to Solicitors General
Government oversight.
Senate Bill 121 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 10 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to perjury and related offenses so as to expand.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 122 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 15 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to miscellaneous provisions regarding the Quality Basic Education Act.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 123 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to require the state board.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 124 by Senator Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 4 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to arrest by law enforcement officers, generally so as to provide for the
Public safety.
Senate Bill 125 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 4 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to arrest by law enforcement officers, generally so as to prohibit
Public
officers.
safety.
Senate Bill 126 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 21 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state tort claims so as to remove certain immunities from the actions of certain law enforcement officers to provide
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 127 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35-8-7 of the OCGA relating to the powers and duties of the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council so as to establish basic and in-service
Public
training.
safety.
Senate Bill 128 by Senators Merritt of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 35 of the OCGA relating to law enforcement officers and agencies so as to create the Georgia
Public
law.
safety.
Senate Bill 129 by Senators Jones II of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to law enforcement officers and agencies so as to require
Public
that certain...
safety.
Senate Bill 130 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding law enforcement officers and agencies so as to prohibit the possession of certain property from the United States
Public
Department.
safety.
Senate Bill 131 by Senators Jones II of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 18 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for prosecuting attorneys so as to provide for the appointment.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 132 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 4 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to arrest by law enforcement officers generally so as to prohibit officers
Public
from...
safety.
Senate Bill 133 by Senators Davenport of the 44th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to searches with warrants so as to prohibit the use of no-knock search warrants in certain circumstances.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 134 by Senators Rahman of the 5th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to identification and regulation of motor vehicles and traffic so as to
Public safety.
Senate Bill 135 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-12-71, Title 16, and Code Section 17-7-52 of the OCGA relating to duties of grand jury crimes and offenses and procedure.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 136 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 4 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to arrest by private persons so as to repeal the article in its entirety.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 137 by Senator Jones II of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 42 of the OCGA relating to penal institutions so as to provide that no private...
Appropriations.
Senate Bill 138 by Senators Davenport of the 44th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to law enforcement officers and agencies so as to provide a standard by which state,
Public
county...
safety.
Senate Bill 139 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 16 of Title 9 of the OCGA relating to the Uniform Civil Forfeiture Procedure Act.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 140 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to the state flag, seal, and other symbols so as to provide for the placement of a monument.
State institutions and property.
Senate Bill 141 by Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally so as to provide for immediate counting and tabulation of ballots after the close.
Ethics.
Senate Bill 142 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 27 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to lottery for education so as to provide for the lottery game of sports wagering in the state.
Regulated industries.
Senate Resolution 83 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide the members of the House of Representatives shall serve 4-year terms of office to provide...
Government oversight.
Senate Resolution 84 by Senators Harper of the 7th and others, a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Airport Infrastructure Improvements and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 86 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a resolution honoring the life and memory of probate judge John Payne and dedicating an intersection in his memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 88 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Sheriff Philip Street and dedicating an intersection in his memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
This completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 105 by Representatives Clark of the 147th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 3 of Chapter 2 of Title 38 of the OCGA relating to pay, pensions, and allowances of state military personnel so as to authorize...
Veterans, military, and homeland security.
House Bill 112 by Representative Kelly of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act relating to torts to provide certain immunities from liability claims regarding COVID-19.
Judiciary.
House Bill 162 by Representative Belton of the 112th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration for Morgan County.
State and local government.
House Bill 174 by Representatives Wiedauer of the 119th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-1-8 of the OCGA relating to safe operations of motor carriers, commercial motor vehicles.
Transportation.
House Bill 205 by Representatives Williams of the 148th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to provide a framework for regulating
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 211 by Representative Williams of the 148th, a bill to be entitled an act to provide a new charter for the town of Arabi to provide for incorporation, corporate boundaries, powers, and construction to provide.
State and local government.
House Bill 225 by Representative Prince of the 127th, a bill to be entitled an act to provide a new charter for the city of Rennes to provide for incorporation boundaries and powers of the
State
city.
and local government.
House Bill 242 by Representative Chokas of the 138th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Americas.
State and local government.
House Bill 251 by Representatives Glanton of the 75th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the composition and manner.
State and local government.
House Bill 265 by Representatives Knight of the 130th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the OCGA relating to revenue and taxation so as to revise the terms Internal Revenue Code and Internal.
Finance.
This completes the order, Mr. President.
That was very impressive. Mr. Secretary, once you all catch your breath over there, will you read reports of standing committees, please?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 46, do pass by substitute, respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 81, do pass, respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 43, do pass by substitute, respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities had had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 45, do pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 87, do pass, respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 27, do pass, respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd. This completes the order.
Secretary will now read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Bill 32 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others, public disclosure of certain personal records of state and federal employees exempt. Senate Bill 33 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, torts, cause of action, perpetrators for victims of human trafficking, provide. Senate Bill 34 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, domestic relations, name change, victims of human trafficking may petition, provide. Senate Bill 49 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, buildings and housings, procedures for alternative plan review, permitting, and inspection by private professional providers, provide. Senate Bill 52 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, selling and other trade practices, legislative findings, standards for cybersecurity programs to protect businesses from liability, provide. Senate Bill 53 by Senator Huffsettler of the 52nd and others, Georgia Technical Authority, power and duty to establish standards for state agencies, website design, navigation, and accessibility, provide. Senate Bill 86 by Senator Walker III of the 20th and others, Fair Business Practices Act of 1975, requirements for solicitations of services for corporate filings required by the Secretary of the State, provide. This completes the order.
Now time for a morning roll call. Chair recognizes Senator from the 33rd. The busiest guy during morning roll call. Busiest senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 19th, the 35th, and the 38th.
Without objection, the senators from the 19th, 35th, and 38th are excused. The chair recognizes the majority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 50th and the 56th.
Without objection, the senators from the 50th and the 56th reports he's here. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st.
The senator from the 27th.
Without objection, the senator from the 27th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th.
Yes, Mr. President, ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 47th.
Without objection, the senator from the 47th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd.
Good morning, Mr. President. I rise to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 12th. She waves. Without Secretary will call the roll. The senators signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted their attendance? Have all senators voted their attendance? Senator from the 39th, check your button real quick. And the senator from the 10th, check your button real quick. All right, all senators voted your attendance. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. All right, it's now time for our morning devotional, and I'd ask that all senators please take your seats. All senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. Doorkeepers, please secure the chamber at this time. I'd like to recognize the senator from the 56th to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me as we pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Good morning. I'm thrilled today to introduce a friend, a fellow Roswell Rotarian, Dr. Kevin Head, who is currently serving as a senior pastor for First Baptist of Roswell and has been in that position since March of 2016. Prior to this service, he was the interim pastor beginning in 2014 and a minister to young families from 2012 to 2014. Kevin has pastored churches in Kentucky and more recently served as senior pastor of First Baptist Church in Lumberton, North Carolina. In 2007, Kevin and his wife Amy began a ministry-based counseling practice in the East Cobb, Roswell area. Kevin is a graduate from Furman University and Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. He was ordained by the First Baptist Church of Belvidere, South Carolina. Kevin's model of ministry is based on John 8 and the amazing continual grace of Jesus Christ. Kevin and Amy have 2 children, Jenna and Joshua. Please welcome Dr. Kevin Head.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I'm grateful for the opportunity and the privilege. The question is rather simple, but the answer may be a little more complex. How do we measure our lives? Or maybe better, how should we measure our lives? Novelist Ursula Le Guin writes that human beings are measurers. We go around putting tapes on things. We dice, divide, segment. We measure life. We even measure our time. We live by clocks, calendars, watches, and phones. We divide the day into hours, into half hours, even into minutes. We take this beautiful, wonderful gift called life and we segment it, we cut it up, we measure it away. A student came from Africa to study in this country, and she was asked to compare her life in the 2 places, and she said, God gave Africans time, God gave Americans watches. That's who we are. We are measurers. We measure life. Sacred Scripture tells about a woman who gave an offering one day. She was poor, but she didn't stop to measure her offering. She just gave. She gave all she had to give. It was different from others who gave that day, less, but they gave out of surplus. They measured. They doled out just what they were willing to spare, but not this woman. She gave, not measured, not counted. She just gave. She just lived. Wouldn't it be great to measure our lives that way? About 25 years ago, I pastored a little church in rural Kentucky. In that community, there was a woman, a single mother, who lived with her mother in literally a tiny shack in the middle of the woods. The 2 women were raising 3 children on their own with very little financial resources. They began attending our small little church, and though they never asked for anything, the church knew they struggled and occasionally could help. A few days before Christmas, the younger woman asked me if I could stop by their home later that week, so I did. I found myself later driving down the little dusty path that led to their dilapidated shack. As I drove, I wondered how I would respond to her when she would surely ask me for money just a few days before Christmas. Our little church was small and we didn't have much money. I walked up to the door, still uncertain how I would respond, when she opened the door before I could knock. You can come in, she said, but there's really no place to sit. I just wanted to give you this. And she handed me a brown paper bag. Go ahead, open it, she said. I opened the wrinkled, stained paper bag and pulled out a t-shirt. One cheap, white t-shirt that had a little hole torn in the front right here on the chest. She said, I wanted to give you something, but I ain't got no money. I found this t-shirt that I bought for my father last Christmas, but he died before I could give it to him. I thought you might could use it. It ain't much, but it comes from my heart. I love that t-shirt. I wore that t-shirt with a hole in it for many, many years. And you know, every time I put that t-shirt on, I smiled. Someone once said, put in all the living that you have. Put in all the living that you have. And what you get in return is a life beyond measure. Would you pray with me? Please stand. Good and gracious Creator, we pause this morning mindful of this precious gift that we call life. We did nothing to earn it or deserve it, but every breath reminds us that it is a gift. Help us to cherish it, to soak it up, to breathe it in, to give it away. I pray for these elected officials. What a demanding, challenging task they face each day. they hold the precious gift of the lives of others in their hands. Grant them strength and courage as they serve others and as they continue the work of this wonderful state of Georgia. And instead of measuring our lives, help us to give freely. Inspire us to work together, that even in our differences, we recognize the gift of life in one another. And remind us that even when we are prevented from doing great things, we can still do small things in great ways for the good of one another and for our collective state. And I make this our prayer in your good and holy name. Amen.
The Senate will come back to order, including the pro tem. Are there any unanimous consents? Chair sees none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today, points of personal privilege, to honor a hero of mine, and his name is Jackie Robinson. And I know the senator from the 2nd mentioned him the other day in a collage of different people, but I want to single him out. Jackie Robinson was born in Cairo, Georgia. Some people mispronounce it as Cairo, Georgia, but here in Georgia it's Cairo. He was the son of Millie and Jerry Robertson. Jackie Robinson made history when he was when he started his first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers on April 15th, 1947. He won Rookie of the Year that year. He was also an all-star player for 6 consecutive seasons from 1949 through 1954. He won Most Valuable Player in 1949, and he was also elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962. He was an advocate for nonviolence approach like that of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the NAACP, where he served as chair for a couple of years. But he rejected more extreme measures that were proposed by some of the younger leaders. In his weekly column in the New York Post, Robinson spoke out against bigotry inside and outside of sports, and he helped form the Freedom National Bank, a financial institution for African Americans in Harlem who were struggling with mortgages and business loans. In 1967, he publicly split with NAACP due to the unresponsiveness to the needs and aims of the members of the people who they represented. He was involved in politics after his baseball career. He campaigned for presidential candidates and voiced his opinions on their stance of civil rights. Even he broke the racial barriers. On the field in baseball, he still spoke of the lack of equality in sports and criticized major league teams for failure to employ African Americans as managers, coaches, and front office executives. He launched the Jackie Robinson Construction Company to build low and moderate income housing for minorities. The Jackie Robinson Foundation was established, and each year they awarded the Jackie Robinson Foundation Scholarship to minority students all over America. Jackie Robinson is known for saying, "I am not concerned with whether you like or dislike me. I ask that you respect me as a human being." Jackie Robinson was a leader in civil rights, whether it was directly or indirectly. He is our hero. Number 42, Jackie Robinson. I yield the way, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate for a point of personal privilege. Likely excuse. He waives. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege. Which senator do you want to blame for that?
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's an honor to be able to speak with everyone in celebration of Black History Month, which is this month. Today I want to talk about a woman named Henrietta Lacks. In 1951, a young black woman named Henrietta Lacks went into Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore for vaginal bleeding. At the time, Johns Hopkins was one of the very few hospitals in the city which treated poor African American patients. So on examination by her doctor, the gynecologist found a large malignant tumor on her cervix, which was biopsied and sent to the lab. Ms. Lacks then started radiation treatment, which was at the time the only medical treatment available for cervical cancer. But hers was an unusually aggressive form of cervical cancer, and despite getting the treatment that was available to her at the time, Henrietta Lacks died later that same year at the age of 31, leaving behind her husband and 5 children. But that's not the end of her story. It didn't take very long for the pathologist in the lab who received this biopsy sample to notice that the cervical tumor cells were behaving very unusually. Most samples of cervical cancer cells sent to the lab died very quickly once they got to the lab. But Henrietta Lax's cells did not. Instead, they thrived, and they divided, and they multiplied very prodigiously, doubling their numbers every 24 hours without slowing. So unlike other cell lines, which did not tend to survive in culture, Henrietta's cells went on indefinitely, dividing. Researchers had never seen anything like this before. This cell line was, in essence, immortal. Amazed, these pathologists sent out samples of these cells to researchers all around the country, and over the next several decades, these cells became the workhorses of biological research. And today, in 2021, research done with Henrietta Lax's cells underpins much of modern medicine. I use them myself in a high school biology lab. They've been involved in key advances in healthcare, including the development of the polio vaccine, development of chemotherapy, in vitro fertilization, and gene mapping. One of the most recent applications of Henrietta Lax's cells, in fact, has been research for vaccines against COVID-19. There are trillions of Henrietta Lax's cells growing in laboratories around the country today, far more than were ever in her body while she was still alive. It's really impossible to calculate the number of patients Henrietta Lax has helped and the work she will continue to do to further medical research. But the story of Henrietta Lax also highlights the racial inequities that are baked into the American research and healthcare system since inception. Because researchers never asked for permission to take Henrietta Lax's cells. They never asked for her consent to use these cells for research, and her family was not made aware. None of the biotechnology or the other companies that have made millions and millions of dollars in profit from using her cells passed any money back to her family, who had already lost so much. And for decades after her death, doctors and scientists repeatedly failed to ask her family for consent as they revealed Henrietta Lax's name publicly, as they distributed copies of her private medical records to the media. We're at a point of national reckoning, and we're at a point where examining our shared history of racial injustice and inequities that have been baked into our healthcare system. We need to decide what kind of country we want to be moving forward. The bodies and the lives of our Black patients and our Black communities cannot be treated with less agency or with less respect than our other patients. There are moments in the history of healthcare that cannot be justified no matter how much good came as a result. But to best honor that good and to best honor the immortal life of Henrietta Lax, we owe it to her and to her family to examine that history with clear eyes and seek to right these wrongs in the work that we do moving forward. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for a point of personal privilege. I want one of those.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise this morning to honor and celebrate a constituent of mine and a true American hero, a member of the greatest generation, Lieutenant Colonel retired Crawford Hicks, on the occasion of his 100th birthday. Today is his 100th birthday, and I hope he and his family are watching this morning. Colonel Hicks flew the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress at the age of 22 during World War II. He flew it over Germany. He successfully bombed targets in Berlin 4 times in a row before being shot down and taken as a prisoner of war for 11 months, where he was ultimately liberated by General George Patton. But he's been a wonderful member of our community. He's got has had a fantastic life, a great career. He's actually an attorney and been very active in our community. This is a model of the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. We have one of these at the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins that is being restored, and we hope to have it on display in the next year, year and a half. It was very important bomber in our victory in World War II. We've done a resolution, the Senate has. I'd like to read that quickly for Colonel Hicks. He was born in 1921, February 10th, 1921. He was a pilot and surviving prisoner of war. He was presented with the medal for his service during World War II at the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins from Senator David Perdue. After enlisting in the Army Air Corps in 1942, he served as an aircraft commander and squadron flight leader, whereas as a member of the 351st Bomb Group, he flew strategic bombing missions from their base at Polebrook, North Hampshire, from April 1943 to June 1945. And whereas just a few months after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Lieutenant Colonel Hicks learned how to pilot the B-17 and flew 10 missions, successfully bombing targets in Berlin 4 times in a row before being tragically shot down over Germany and taken as a prisoner of war. And whereas Lieutenant Colonel Hicks was imprisoned at Stalag Luft III until he was liberated by General Patton on April 29, 1945, after which time he continued his service in the military until 1966. And whereas Lieutenant Colonel Hicks possesses the vast wisdom which only comes through experience and the strength of character which is achieved through overcoming the many challenges of life, and whereas he has witnessed a dramatic change in the world over the course of his lifetime, and we salute his contribution to the progress by his own hard work and valiant service to this country, and whereas by the example Lieutenant Colonel Hicks has made of his life, he makes this world a better place in which to live, and it is only fitting and proper that he be appropriately recognized during this very special and memorable time. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend Lieutenant Colonel Crawford Hicks for his unselfish, dedicated, and loving service to the members of his family, community, state, and country, congratulate him on the remarkable occasion of his 100th birthday, and extend our most sincere best wishes for continued health and happiness. Please join me in wishing Colonel Hicks a happy 100th birthday. Thank you.
I'll hold that model for you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 12th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, I rise to thank the many individuals and organizations that have collectively provided immeasurable assistance to COVID victims and their families in Southwest Georgia. We also wish to thank Governor Kemp, Lieutenant Governor Duncan, and their staffs for the availability of resources as well as conversation. We are far from being COVID-free, but we are definitely trending in the right direction. COVID is very much a reality and not a hoax. But most importantly, I want to thank Scott Steiner, CEO of Phoebe Putney Healthcare Systems, Albany, Georgia, for tireless and unselfish leadership performances day in and day out. Under the direction of Scott and his amazing staff, Dr. Lackenpaul, CEO of Phoebe Physicians, Dr. Diana Grant, COO, and HBCU graduate of Tougaloo College, Tougaloo, Mississippi, Dr. Eddie Black, the amazing ER administrator who's homegrown, a native Albanian, HBCU graduate, Albany State University, Golden Rams. We sincerely thank you, thank you. We also thank those who are public health supporters, Dr. Ruiz and his staff, and especially Ms. Vamela Lovett at the Dougherty County Public Health Department. Thank you, Coroner Michael Fowler, who has joined first responders internationally to give assistance wherever it was needed. He too, homegrown. Thank you to our amazing county commission led by Christopher Cohelis and staff. Thank you, Mayor Bo Durham and your commissioners. You guys are our heroes. God bless all of you. Mask up and stay safe. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to introduce the Doctor of the Day. Dr. Andrea Giuliao is a practicing family medicine physician in Tucker, Georgia. She's practiced medicine for 20 years, on staff at DeKalb Medical Center, and now as part of Emory Specialty Associates. She did her undergraduate studies at Emory University, received her medical degree from the Medical College of Georgia, and completed her training in family medicine at Atlanta Medical Center. She is Georgia-born, grew up in DeKalb County. She is a wife and mother of 3 grown children. Her medical interests include preventive medicine, women's health, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, joint disease, osteoporosis, and geriatrics. She serves as the current president of the DeKalb Medical Society and with the Grace Clinic as part of the Christian Medical and Dental Associates, serving the international and refugee community of Clarkston, Georgia. And while we are thanking and recognizing our healthcare workers and medical providers, I wanted to take a quick moment to do a little public service announcement about the importance of lay persons, including all of us in this chamber, having basic skills around the Heimlich maneuver. My legislative assistant and her fiance last night saved the life of their neighbor who came to them. He couldn't breathe at all, choking with a large hunk of meat in his throat. It was terrifying, but they were able to spring into action as he was close to passing out and actually collapsed. Got a nurse to join them, another neighbor who was a nurse to join them as well, and the 3 of them were able to call 911 and do the Heimlich maneuver to save this man's life. I learned the Heimlich maneuver, I remember, in about 5th grade, probably for the first time. And I just wanted to bring up their scary experience last night that has a happy ending to remind all of you how important it is to refresh your memories of CPR and the Heimlich maneuver so that you too can ensure that a tragedy does not happen. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, if there's one thing this pandemic has made absolutely obvious, it's that every single person in this country, in this state, needs an easy entry point into our healthcare system. Even some who have private health insurance struggle to find enough money to pay the doctor because they have already paid so much money in monthly premiums and have plans that have high deductibles. Last week, I filed a bill, Senate Bill 83, to give Georgians more consumer power and flexibility. It's a Medicaid plan based on the Peach Care for Kids model, a plan that people feel good about. In more technical terms, it is a Medicaid public option. This Medicaid public option would allow anyone, no matter their income or their insured status, the option to purchase Medicaid managed care, the same system that Peach Care for Kids uses. This Peach Care public option won't cost the state a penny because the costs will be covered by premiums. With more people going to the doctor when they need to, we can improve the overall health in our state and reduce healthcare costs. Even the American College of Physicians, one of the largest physicians associations in the US, supports a public option in healthcare. Customer satisfaction surveys say the overwhelming majority of Medicaid recipients are pleased with their health care, just as families are happy with Peach Care for Kids. Now, more than ever, Georgians need care they can afford when they need it. They need it not only in emergencies, but also for the little things, so they don't show up in ERs of our already overwhelmed hospitals. Also, small businesses need an affordable option so they can provide these options to their employees. A Peach Care public option fills that gap. I hope that you will consider this practical option. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come to the well today, Black History Month, to recognize a lady that passed away last month in Columbia County. A first-class lady, Ms. Doris Belcher. Ms. Doris Belcher was a retired county agent with the County Agent Extension Service. A lady that touched many, many young people's lives over the years. And you're looking at one she touched. She meant so much to me that my mother and my father, when we went off on 4-H camping trips with Miss Doris Belcher, that she had permission to tear up my rear end if I got in trouble. But a lady that, like I said, touched many lives. She's truly going to be missed, but I just wanted to recognize her. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. I rise, namely because yesterday Prime delivered my ordered book from one of my favorites. Let me tell you a little bit about Cicely Tyson. She was the most respected talent in American theater and film history. From her starring role on Broadway in The Blacks to the Emmy-nominated film A Lesson Before Dying, her work has garnered her critical acclaim, and for more than 60 years, she has received 2 Emmys for her autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman and won a Tony for Best Actress for The Trip to Bountiful. A capstone achievement came in 2018 when she became the first Black woman to receive an honorary Oscar. In Cicely's own words, "Just as I am is my truth. It is me, plain and unvarnished, with a glitter and garland set aside. In these pages, I am indeed Cicely, the actress who has been blessed to grace the stage and screen of 6 decades. Yet, I am also a church girl who once rarely spoke a word. I am a teenager who sought solace in the verses of the old hymn for which this book is named. I am a daughter and a mother and a sister and a friend. I am observer of human nature and the dreamer of audacious dreams. I am a woman who has hurt as immeasurably as I have loved, a child of God divinely guided by his hand. And here in my 9th decade, I am a woman who, at long last, has something meaningful to say. From our president, former President Barack Obama, in her long and extraordinary career, Cicely Tyson has not only succeeded as an actor, she has shaped the course of history. That was in 2016 when he presented her with the Presidential Medal of Honor. Cicely Tyson died January 28, 2021. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Chair hears none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Chair sees none. We are going to move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 44?
Senate Bill 44 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-86 of the OCGA relating to special license plates, promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations with proceeds dispersed to general fund and the agency fund or nonprofit corporation so as to establish a specialty license plate honoring support our troops. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th to speak to Senate Bill 44.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's not often I'm able to come down here and offer up a bill that is so bipartisan and touches so many lives. But I bring before you SB 44, which is a Support Our Troops special plate. Support Our Troops, Inc., based in Tampa, has organizations in all 50 states. To summarize why I am such a supporter of this, other than the fact that it is supporting our troops with care packages, it has for many years, is in the last 24 months, they have been able to deliver about $3.5 million through Fort Benning and some of our other bases without even pulling any revenue out of our state. So, Mr. President, with that, unless there's any questions, I yield well and ask your favorable consideration.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 44? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Remind the Senate that this is a two-thirds vote. This is a two-thirds vote. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Anybody in the hallway? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 60?
Senate Bill 60 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 5 of Chapter 9 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to the Georgia State Indemnification Fund so as to revise when indemnification shall be in instances of a heart attack, stroke, or vascular rupture suffered by a public safety officer resulting in certain disabilities or death. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th to speak to Senate Bill 60.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to go 2 for 2 with, again, bipartisan support for a good cause. Senate Bill 60 simply seeks to take the Georgia State Indemnity Program and align it with the federal program. And what it includes in this is to be able to, is it spelled out? Indemnification is paid to law enforcement officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, emergency management rescue specialists, state highway employees, and prison guards under the following circumstances: partial permanent disability suffered in line of duty, total permanent disability in the line of duty, and death or organic brain damage suffered in the line of duty. And all we're doing is going to take this and align this with our federal statutes. That, Mr. President, we passed this unanimously, I believe, out of this chamber last year. I'd appreciate your favorable consideration if there are no questions.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st for a question. Sorry.
Senator, do you yield?
I'll yield.
Senator, isn't it true that there are firefighters who have died within 4 or 5 hours of having worked a car accident but weren't able to receive any pay because it was a fire? It was not a fire. Isn't it true?
Senator knows what she speaks.
Senator, isn't it true that there are a number of public safety officers who find themselves at home less than 24 hours afterwards, having had a stroke, and once again, they are not received any pay?
Senator, I'll yield for that question, and Senator, again, knows what they speak.
And sir, I just want to say that it's with great joy that we were able to offer some bipartisan support in support of our public safety officers. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 60? The chair sees none. For what purpose does the senator from the 40th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 36th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 36th is excused for business outside the Capitol. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 60? Chair sees none. Is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted their machine? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. After yesterday's hijinks, I hid my card inside my Bible because I knew the senator from the 56th would never find it there. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock on Thursday, February 11th, 2021.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Who thought of that? Are there any, Mr. Secretary, announcements, please?
The Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 450. The Health and Human Services Committee is canceled. The Natural Resources and Environment Committee is canceled. The Education and Youth Committee will meet at 2:15 in room 307 in CLOB. The Judiciary Subcommittee A will meet at 2:15 in Mezzanine 1. Retirement Committee is canceled. Finance Committee will meet at 3:30 in room 450. And Judiciary Committee is canceled. This completes the order.
Does any senator wish to make an announcement? Chair sees none. The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Thursday, February 11th, 2021 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Certainly the ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned.